I remember a practical story is that so many times when I was dealing with the worst of chronic pain, we had just moved into a new home. I could barely walk. My feet were so swollen. And I knew that what I was dealing with was catastrophic. And I knew it was more significant than what other people were dealing with. And we hired a landscaper. And he needed a down payment at that time of $8,000 before he could start our landscape.
That was a lot of money back then.
Oh, that was a lot of money for us.
It was like all of our money.
We had changing markets. We had kids that we were trying to establish roots and create a root system for our family to be plugged into one home. And here we are, and we get this person who gives us a very flowery representation of how well they're going to do our landscaping, and we're not going to have to spend $30,000, and we can go ahead and start with an $8,000 down payment. And what does he do? He ran off with the money. And that $8,000 at that time, with the amount of pain that I was in, it was enough to put another thorn in our side.
And for me, it was crushing because, I mean, that was a few home sales at the time. Homes were, less than half of what they cost now. And that was a huge amount of money I felt directly stolen from.
Right.
It's like, how can you steal the provision of my family when there's so much that feels like we're holding up, whole world of tough stuff inside of our family. It was really a hard thing for me.
And what we did was this. Usually on Wednesday afternoons, right at noontime, we went to a place called the World Prayer Center in Colorado Springs, and we would spend a sacred amount of time in prayer and worship.
Yeah.
And we did that with our hearts. And what happened on this particular day is that you were headed to the World Prayer Center, and I was headed to the district attorney's office.
That's right. That's not very compatible.
That is not compatible. And I was headed there to get justice.
Yes.
Here I am, God, in my righteousness. Look at my pain. Look how much worse this is making it for us. I'm going to go and get this thing fixed, and I'm going to make sure that we're correct, and we're going to see restitution for what happened to us.
He's going to pay.
He's going to pay. And as I went to the district attorney's office and I walked in, and I started filling out all these filing forms, the Spirit of the Lord hit me. Gordon, do you subscribe to Matthew 18, where you're going to have perpetual forgiveness in your life? Is that going to be the root that you're going to put by the streams of living water? You just moved into a new home. You've been attending the prayer center. You've been pouring out your heart. You've started a whole business again by faith. What are you going to do? Are you going to get short-term justice?
And I have to say this, as you're saying it, it's coming to my mind, that when you're in pain, somebody has to pay.
Someone has to pay.
That's the temptation. That's one of the hardest things to overcome. When you're in pain, someone has to pay. Who is going to pay for my pain?
I've already been accountable for enough.
Yeah.
You've given me more than I can handle by irritating me, stealing from me, begging from me, pulling on me. I've had it. You don't get to do this anymore.
So it's so understandable that you were at that tipping point.
I was at that tipping point.
But that new lens God shared with you in that moment.
He shared with me in that moment. And instead of working with the frailty of my flesh, I didn't want to be like the cursed man. I had to put my trust in God. So I walked out of that office and ripped up that application that I had to sue this individual for fraud. I ripped it up and I came home and I wrote him a letter and said, I absolutely forgive you. I want to have a root of forgiveness. And as I was forgiving that individual for stealing from our family, I didn't even realize it. I was starting to forgive my pain.
Amen.